Shalom, shalom. Today we have actually, I really have to say, the Tuesday, the 21st of June. Yesterday, on the channel of Yair Davidi, we had Ezekiel discussion on Ezekiel 37. Here we see on the left here Yair Davidi, here we see Lowell Gallen, and then we see here Sylvia Halpert, and I actually do not know who the other person is. Nevertheless, they were Steve Mate, and they were discussing about the resurrection of the dead and what's happening with the reunification of Ephraim and Judah. So, while that was happening, and a lot of questions were raised, I think everybody who was in Jerusalem at that time realized that we had Ursula von der Leyen coming. Ursula von der Leyen coming as the head of the European Union.
أوروبا شريك للسلام والعدل في المنطقة.
Blah 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 blah. So now she is here talking to the Palestinian Terror Organization. Sorry, I think it's Fatah.
We are the largest donor in Palestine with around 600 million euros per year.
Okay, I hit the right button. So they are the largest donor with 600 million euros to Palestine. To Palestine. Now the only person who accepted Palestine as a state is this person, Mario Bergoglio. Now, so when we are talking about the reunification of the 12 tribes and so on and so on and so on and so on, what has been neglected by all my Jewish friends and so on is the role of the Pope, my dear friends, the role of the Pope. Now, as you could see, Flintenuschi, as we used to call her, Flintenuschi, she was on May 22nd, she was at the Vatican and she held like a very brief...
Madam President, thank you for this interview. 50 years of diplomatic relations between the Holy See and the European Union.
So 50 years of diplomatic relationship, 50 years of diplomatic relationship. So only started 72.
How are the relations between the Vatican and the EU today?
The relations between the Holy See, the Vatican and the European Union are excellent. And
Okay, the relationship between the Holy See and the Vatican and the European Union are excellent. 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 So she said this on the 5th of May. Now on the 5th of May, Donald Trump came to visit, 5th of May. What happened over the last 5 years, guys? I mean, did this actually sink in anybody? What's with all our American citizens? Rabbi Avraham Feld, what's happening there? Okay, so we know now, so Flintenuschi, as we call her, so she went to the Pope before. So the Pope is the king of Europe. All nations have to go there. All nations have to go there. And she is the woman, if you like, she's the woman who rides the beast. Okay, so we see here the 12 stars. You can see this in Revelation. There is a woman and she has like 12 stars over her head. So the flag was given on the 8th of December 1955 on Mary's Immaculate Conception or something like this. So it's a day when the flag was handed over to Europe. So now, would you please tell me that all Jewish leadership, the spiritual leadership, where people says, yes, we have to submit to the spiritual leadership of the Jewish people. Well, what did they have to do over the last 70 years? Did they have to bow down to the Pope, yes or no? Smiley, smiley, swinker, swinker, smiley, smiley, swinker, smile. What are they doing there? So the spiritual leadership of the Jewish people submitted to the Pontifex Maximus. Okay? So I put this here in an article. I invite you to come, to ZionElite.biz. The woman riding the beast is not a great friend of Israel. I mean, she found very nice ways. She said, I have put the fight against anti-Semitism and fostering Jewish life in Europe at the core of the European Commission's agenda. Aha, think about this. So she is coming and says, yes, I want to fight anti-Semitism, but I give 600 million euros to the Palestinian terror organization. After she went for the close meeting with the Pope. Now, Mario Draghi came. So he's the Prime Minister now of Italy. Before, he was at the Pontifical Academy, serving Pope Francis. And like Pope Francis, Mario Draghi is a Marxist. I mean, they say this, okay? Now, this here is Ronald Lauder and David de Rothschild. Now, David de Rothschild is the son of Guy de Rothschild, who completely reconstructed the European Union after the World War. So the European Union is basically a successor of the Nazi business empire of IG Farben. So IG Farben was split into Bayer, BASF, Höchst and Schering. So Bayer currently owns Monsanto. Monsanto is the largest seed producer in the world. And there came all out of IG Farben, a Nazi organization. And then after the war, it was reconstructed, to fulfill the complete Nazi empire idea. But that Nazi empire is locked with the Pope. The Pope, in the name of the Holy Trinity, made all the contracts. Now, and the Rothschild did all the banking for this. Why did they do all the banking? Because we have this situation that the whole European Union is nothing more than a business empire with the representative of Christ, of the Messiah, of the Moshiach, on top of it. So everybody serves the Pope, while the Pope says, yes, I serve the King of the Jews. Now, and this all went over money. So I have this money here. So this is a Federal Reserve note. And I would like to note that the founders of the Federal Reserve are German Jewish banking families. Okay, one of them would be the Schiff family. So Jacob Schiff created the American Jewish Committee. The other one would be Warburg. Paul Warburg was the vice president of the first Federal Reserve. They started 1904 and basically completely built a world order because everybody expected that the Messianic light is coming out. Now on this note is written, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So for all debts, okay? So why is it a legal tender? It doesn't say it's money. So you have to understand that only gold and silver, so this is a silver dollar from 1922. It was taken, the peace dollar was taken from the silver, which was taken from the Germans, So 1914, when the Federal Reserve opened up the office, well, all of Europe was basically ripped apart by the First World War, and afterwards, all gold and silver was taken, and fiat money was given in exchange. Now, the silver which was taken by the Americans, you produced the peace dollar out of this. So 1922 and beyond. So this $1 This is real money. 0.5 gram of silver in here. This is no money, it's illegal tender. So illegal tender, it's like when you are in chapter 11. In chapter 11, for example, like in Isaiah chapter 11, or like in John chapter 11, where Lazarus dies, okay? So you went like completely, absolutely bankrupt, okay? But you have $1 to pay for your debts. So then it's a matter of negotiation to go and says, okay, listen, I'm very sorry, I really broke down. My friends sold all my shit in Germany. My friends in Jerusalem, they divided up my properties. They spoke bad-mouthing about me, and so on and so on and so on. But I really want to clear this up in Jerusalem. So this is my offer. I pay all my debt for this note. This is a legal tender, because this is, so now it is up to you. Do you trust in God? And you say, okay, I forgive now your debt. I take this and I close this whole issue. All right. Or if you say, no, I want you to go bankrupt. I want you to die, and I will not take your offer. So based on this, of course, you know this, that we just had this in the parasha last week, okay, in Zechariah 3:9, that on one stone there are 7 eyes, okay? Now, and when this stone comes, well, the sin, the debt of that land will be forgiven on one day. That would be normally Yom Kippur, one day. So how is it possible that we are able to forgive our sins and debts and so on with one single US dollar? Now the all European Union is completely one big company, the EU Commission, where is currently Ursula von der Leyen. So it's a company, and that company has a contract with another company called Vatican City Kingdom. Now, and that empire is structured below what is called the Santa Sede, or the anagram for Satan's See. It's under the most oldest subject of international law, the Santa Sede, which is preserved for the Moshiach. Now, when I came to you guys, also to Yair Davidi, I thought you were happy, But then I found out you completely missed 22 years somehow. You completely forgot that the Torah went out from Zion. You completely forgot that the word from Jerusalem went out of Zion. And you completely forget that Ephraim already created a subject, to international law, the nation of Ephraim, 2005. And now you're wondering what certain things have to happen. So what has to happen is that the firstborn from the dead, signified here with this Jesus thingamabob, okay, the crucified, the guy who was kicked out of the land, and so on and so on. He has to come back to Jerusalem. In that moment, everything will fall into place, and the subject of international law, the Santa Sede, take hold of his possession, which is all of the land of Israel. Now, why do I believe that this is absolutely done? I mean, this is the partition plan from 1947. And then later on, Ronald Lauder, the World Jewish Congress, the American Jewish Committee, the banks, and so on and so on and so on. Stay here. It's very important. The banks, very important. So they created a situation that this person can be exchanged with the real Moshiach, with the firstborn from the dead. Now, here this is Cardinal Koch. He is responsible, he used to be the Bishop of Basel. He is responsible for Jewish-Catholic relationships. Now, the Jewish-Catholic relationships are handled also via the Rothschilds. Now, please take a look at the coat of arms the Rothschilds have since the beginning of the 1900s. So this here is the unicorn, which everybody says, okay, this stands for Joseph or Ephraim. Now, if you take a look very closely, this unicorn is unchained, while at the coat of arms from England, now this unicorn is chained. This is chained. Okay? Now this has something to do with gold and silver and so on and so on. Now at least I would remind everybody that the English kings are Germans. Now the Rothschilds are Germans. Okay? Now liberal Judaism comes out of Germany. The revolution from Karl Marx comes out of Germany. Karl Marx is also German. Okay? Now, the last Pope was, of course, German, and of course, we have a 1,000-year-old Holy Roman Empire of a German nation. Now, the thing is, of course, that you already also have a German sitting in, in Israel currently, Dr. Jürgen Bühler, and where do we have this? No, of course, we have the German Ephraim. Nobody should be surprised that Ephraim also is a German. Now, there is no shadow of the doubt, I mean, this is Harry Truman, that this order was completely done by Freemasons. I mean, seriously, guy. And Harry Truman, he created Israel 11 minutes after, Ben-Gurion declared Israel a state. Now, by that time, that note was already in circulation. Now, when Donald Trump talks about the Federal Reserve and says the Fed is crazy and so, does anybody really think that that doesn't know what he's talking about? I think they all know what they're talking about. All of them, okay? Now, so I really do believe that in the past already everything was done. It was created. So for the moment that the world realized, okay, it's just one guy, and oh my gosh, it was really Ulf. Okay, this will be the biggest shocker after all, because I told you all 7 years ago, and since then I just followed up the cash trail. So now I hope I give you a boost in motivation. Now, we have to prep this a bit up. I really have to say, we are talking about the biggest story of our lifetime. And it's impossible when we are promoting this story. We have 150 views. 150 views of people were actually, taking care and took a look at this discussion. Now, while at the same time, all the issue, thousands of people are reading various blog articles on Israel 365 News. And of course, in the moment, here the European Union, think about this here, now think the World Economic Forum, okay? Now, in the moment, they are creating something. Now, well, then it's not just by, 180, 150 people. No, there are already 1,000 people from the elites are there. You see, so when they are saying something, then things are happening. Now, in the moment we continue, reading the same Bible verses to each other again and again and again, instead of really doing our New Deal, well, then you have to see that the beast, the Pope, will stay on its place. Flintenuschi will continue handing out millions and millions and billions to terrorist states. Joe Biden will still continue to do the same and sell out basically the Western world and freedom and everything else. So then it will stay. Or we come together, and as I said this already before, so how do we make a new deal? Then you just make a sign up at torahclub.com. Or if you are from Ephraim and you want to make a new deal with the Jewish people, then you make a sign up at Zion5777.com. So the sooner we start just doing this and say, yes, I am Ephraim and I make a peace deal with you, And everybody who's making a sign up is joining this deal, where the sooner we come to close this, where the sooner the whole story of the Pope will end. Now, does Isaac Herzog know? Yes, I absolutely believe. He says here, Israel thus remains fully committed to freedom of religion and worship and to deep respect towards all faith, including the one of Ephraim. And, of course, all the 10 tribes, and everybody who believes who belongs to Joseph. And it says here very clearly, there can be no Israel without Joseph. En Israel bli Yosef. I can even read the Hebrew, one on the internet. So, now here we have the Israel government investigation. So after 5 years now, 7 years investigating, Israel hopes lost tribes can boost Jewish numbers. Okay, let's finish it. Thank you so much. Don't think about Flintenuschi. Think about Judea and Samaria. And think about Isaiah 7. Ephraim is Samaria. If you do not believe this, you will not stand at all. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening and see you soon.